Yeah, it's super nice to be here. It's been really fun, like just meeting a lot of folks. But yeah, you can see I changed up the title because when I got asked what the title would be, I had like a deadline to do it, so I just put something. But then I decided to change it because I was like, hey, like you see those books for dummies, like oh, how to do taxes, how to do like, let's do how to make a winning ad because I think it's like it seems like a really complicated topic, but I don't think it has to be. Oh, I didn't get the clicker from. Could I get the? I was supposed to grab the clicker from the last speaker, but I just forgot. Does somebody have the clicker? Should I? Oh. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yes. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay. So yeah, I'm like, Albert Einstein said it, if you can't explain it simply, you just don't understand it well enough. So I want to kind of give y'all like the easiest frameworks and the tips to understand how to make winning creatives so that you can walk away from this better understanding how to do it yourself, how to manage your agency, or whatever it is in between. I do want to say that like, it's not a silver bullet. You can't just fucking slap better ads and then make everything work. Like if you guys seen the ads I did for Ecom North, it was so easy to make because they have a good product, they have a good story. In and of itself, it was unique. So making the ad was just amplifying it. But you can't take something that is bad and just make better ads. So we'll be using the real example, which is the ad that I made for Ecom North. Can I get a show of hands? Anybody has seen this on their feed? Okay, I don't see that many hands, so I will play it.
This is Nick, and 10 years ago,
Can I turn it up?
a business that makes it easier and more affordable for Canadian e-com brands to ship their packages.
Wait, yo, this place is huge. How many orders do you guys ship?
Over 10 million a year. It's about 50,000 a day.
He started out building his own e-commerce brand, but soon realized how crazy and unaffordable the shipping costs were for Canadian businesses. And no one was doing anything about it back in 2014, so he decided to take matters into his own hands. 10 years later, he built the #1 e-com shipping service in Canada, where Canadian brands can get 40 to 80% off versus the national carrier.
Wait, James. This is not what this video is about.
Wait, what?
I know we made shipping better in Canada, but we're working on something new.
Okay, so what is it?
So when was the last time you've been to an event just for DTC people in Canada?
So long story short, Nick felt like there was no dedicated event just for D2C or e-com people in Canada. All the big conferences in Canada are way too generic, and all the good ones are in the US. So Nick and his team spent the last 12 months planning the first, the only, and the biggest conference 100% dedicated for D2C founders and operators in Canada. There's a dedicated track for brands scaling to 7 to 9 figures, and a dedicated track for brands building the foundations. So the content is relevant whether you're starting out or have been doing this for over 10 years. Ecom North is a labor of love, hosted by and for people who are actually in the D2C space. There's amazing speakers like Aaron Spivak and Nick Sharma, and even curated roundtable seating so that it's actually easy to make connections. Oh, and did I mention that it's 100% free to attend?
So when is this again?
September 6th, downtown Toronto at the Sheraton. See you guys there.
Hey. All right, so that was the ad that I made for Ecom North, and then back when I did it, I was just hopping on a call with Nick and the team, and I was like, okay, like just tell me everything I need to know about it. And then the rest was actually easy because they have a really cool story. There's a really special reason why they're hosting this, and so everything else kind of became a lot easier. So I'm about to be on stage for like the next 30 minutes. Why should you guys listen to me yap? Like who am I? I'm gonna just play a quick video that I posted on Instagram about I think back in February, so that's 6 months ago. That video went viral, got 1 million views in a week, and then now it's sitting at 3 million. So I'm just gonna play that real quick.
12 months ago, my fiance and I decided to quit our 9-to-5s to take a bet on ourselves and start our own business. We were just done with all the corporate BS, the office politics, and being at the mercy of whoever was managing us. In just 1 year, we started and grew our marketing agency from just us to now a full-time team of 10. We script, shoot, and edit ads for internet businesses. We love what we do, and it honestly changed our lives. Just last week, we bought our dream car, and now we're finally able to take care of our parents. Okay, so the business is going great, but why am I making videos on the internet? Why am I not just building my business? The thing is, all I see when I look online is all these internet entrepreneur gurus telling you how to make from 0 to 100K in 45 days. Honestly, look, maybe I'm stupid, maybe I'm bad at this, but building a business is one of the hardest things anyone can ever do, but it's also one of the most fulfilling and life-changing things. This entrepreneur lifestyle is glorified because these gurus are just trying to sell you the course. I want to make content that I wish I would have seen when I started my business. I want to share the real, raw, and filtered stuff of what it's like to build a business. Like how I decide how much to pay my team, how I lost my 3 biggest clients in just 1 month, and even how much I make every single month. I'm also going to share lessons that you can actually use and apply yourself. Like exactly how I landed my first 10 clients in just 60 days, like how I structure my sales calls, and how I even price my services. Oh, and last but not least, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is James Zhao, I'm 27, and I live in Toronto, Canada. I'm a second-gen Chinese Canadian who channeled his ADHD and love for Diablo 2 into just building businesses.
It's pretty cool seeing it play on the big screen, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, a little bit more about me. I kind of walked a very traditional, conventional path. I went to business school. I got a pretty good job out of college. I worked at L'Oreal for 2 years in brand marketing. I was actually working on Lancome skincare, so I know a weird amount about skincare and makeup for a dude. And then when COVID happened in 2020, at that point I was 2 years into my job. I was kind of burnt out, and then I moved back home during COVID. And then that was a time where one of my friends, her name is Jamie, she started this brand called Remix Snacks. It's like a chocolate that's like healthier for you with like beans infused, so there's fiber and protein. She got into Dragons then, got 2 of the Dragons to invest, and she calls me up, she's like, hey James, like I really want to do this full time, but I don't know how to do marketing. Can you teach me? Like you're my only friend who works in marketing. And I basically told him like, I have no fucking clue how to actually get your first like 10, 20 customers. Even though I was doing big brand marketing campaigns for L'Oreal, I realized at the time my skill set wasn't really that useful. So during COVID, I quit my job, and then I just like learned Facebook ads, Google ads online. I had a mentor at the time, and then that got me to my next role, which was at Turo. Turo was like the Airbnb for cars. I was there for 2 years. That was really fun, but I kind of saw, do you guys remember what the world was like prior to TikTok? Like I barely remember what it was like, because these days you just have good video content, Reels, TikToks. Like, but back then it was like, I don't know, like carousels, or I don't even know what we had, but it was not the same. So back then brands could just throw like random like GIFs and then it would get sales. But then after TikTok came around, the level of playing field for ads just leveled up so hard. So we would spend like 10, 20K on a single piece of high production ad at Turo, throw it on Facebook ads, it wouldn't really do well. I also had a couple clients on the side at the time. I was also stressed. So then I was like, yo, like how hard could this be? Me and my fiance were living together at the time. I was like, I'll write a script, I'll grab the iPhone, she's acting in it, we edit it together in CapCut, and then that ad went on to spend $100,000 profitably for my client, like my small, tiny client on the side. So I just got my mind blown. And then so basically around the same time, I was kind of going through quarter life crisis. I was around 24 at the time. The frontal lobe is developing super hard. And then I was like, okay, like what do I want for my life? I looked up ahead and I was like, my director and my VP, they're cool people, but like I don't think that's the life I want in 10 years. But then my brother-in-law, he runs his own business. His daughter is like about 9 years old at the time. And then so she loves to play tennis, and he gets to go and play tennis with her on like a Thursday afternoon. And I looked at that and I was like, that's the life that I want, right? Like that's the life I want in 10 and 15 years. But I had the golden handcuffs really tight and comfy, RSU, stock options, health spend, all that shit. But then I just thought about like, if that's the life I want in 10 to 15 years, that's the leap I have to take today to get there. And so in January of 2023, both me and my fiance, we quit our jobs to start this thing full time. And then 2 years later, we built a small and mighty team of 15 people actually, not 16. And yeah, it's been a really tough but very fulfilling journey. You can tell by our staff, like it's really heavy on creatives, 3 creative strategists, 5 video editors. And we've done really cool work for like a ton of brands over the last 2 years. And so a lot in DTC, a lot of outside of that as well. But let's get started to the like, what are we actually doing? So there's 6 steps to making a winning ad. You'll be like, that's a lot, like 6 steps, but it's really just 2. It's just research and execution. It's pretty straightforward. So I'll start with the first one of like, what is more relevant to you? Like you guys are in a scaling track, but if you're here 0 to 1, 0 to Vine defined as I run no paid ads, 1 meaning I'm spending around like maybe 10 to 15K per month. 0 to 1, I think you should focus on strategy because you want to aim in the right direction. And then with 1 to 100, so going from 10K to 200K, 300K a month in ad spend, you want to focus on execution. So step 1 out of the 6 is understanding your customers. So you want to look at, okay, like who, if you had to describe your customer to a blind person, what would they look like? What would they sound like? What do they think about? What are the problems they have? What are the outcomes they want? What are the alternatives to your product? Why should they trust you? What are they hesitant about before they make a purchase? And why should they buy from you right now? So if we take Ecom North as an example, which is interesting because you guys are the customers in the room, you guys are Canadian D2C founders and operators who wants to connect and learn. Your problem is that it's lonely doing this stuff. You guys are craving a community. The outcome is you want to meet and connect cool people. Alternatives are other big Canadian conferences that are generic or the US ones that are too far. You should trust them because Stallion is like, I mean, why do you trust us? But like Stallion is a cool team who's putting it together. They have a 10-year track record. The offer is that is freaking free. Like, you know, like the food is good, everything's great. Hesitations, is it going to be awkward meeting people? That's why we have Roundtable. Who else is going? They have 2 tracks, like the scaling and the foundation track, because you're like, oh, is this relevant for me? I just started. Or, oh, is this relevant for me because I'm already at 9 figures? So then you're just like, okay, this is cool, but like, why do I need to do this? Like, is this actually going to help me write a good script, right? Does this really matter? So this quote, I don't know who said it, I can't find it, but the best movies are made before the camera rolls. And if I take the script, this is the script that you guys just saw, the ad with Nick in it. This script, if I break it down by the 7 things we broke down, customer problem, outcome, alternative, trust, objection, offer. This is like the meat that is going on the bones. And if I color code it, you'll see that like 80 to 85% of the ad is straight up just from your research. If you have done good research, the ad kind of writes itself. You don't have to think of creative things to say. It just kind of flows out of you, right? So it's really, really important. So you're like, okay, shit, this is pretty important. How do I find this information? So number 1, you want to introspect. Oftentimes the answers are within yourself. So when I work with brands, I'll ask them questions like, hey, like if you were at a farmer's market doing a booth exhibiting your products, what would the customer come up to you and ask? When I put them in those scenarios, then they can come to me with real answers, because a lot of times your automatic answers are kind of filtered and kind of just like condensed versions. They're not actually truthful. The second thing is you want to go talk to your customers. Pretty straightforward. And the third thing is research. So my favorite thing is looking at your own reviews, your competitors, but also just looking at the comment sections. There's a lot of gold there. Like just go and I mean in my personal, when I'm brain rotting and scrolling, I always like to read comments. It's just fun. So like I said, if you're in a 0 to 1 brand, this part is really important. You want to aim at the right direction. So whatever research you're doing is dictating the direction of your ads. And then if you're 1 to 100, I think what oftentimes happens is that you think you know exactly who your customers are, you know exactly what they want, and you say, let's never touch that again. Let's just go full horse blinders, lock in and just execute. And I think that's most of the time right, but sometimes you want to take a step back and be like, hey, are there other types of customers to pursue, right? Like, are there other things that I should do? So I'd say, you know, the downfall for 1 to 100 is that you don't do this step nearly enough. You want to spend a little bit of time here. Step 2 is to actually ideate an ad concept. So what you want to do is you might like, what is an ad concept? You want to take one customer. So you want to take a customer profile. In this case, is like, you know, Canadian D2C founders. Pick a customer profile, pick a pain point, pick an outcome, and then combine it with a format. So the format of the ad could be static, short form video, long form video. So you just pick one, and then you combine that with a creative angle. A creative angle is basically a proven storytelling angle that's proven to work. So like a problem agitation solution, comparison, how-tos, founder story, so on and so forth. So with Ecom North, this is what we did. This is the customer, this is the format, that's the creative angle. You might be wondering, like, how do I know which customer to pick? How do I know which pain point to pick? So it's a mix of art and science. The hunch in you is like, hey, I feel like this is right. You want to listen to your intuition. Oftentimes your intuition is your subconscious processing a lot of information, but you also want to look at the data. If you talk to 20 customers and like 18 of them mention something, like that's most likely what you should do. Like you want to appeal to the masses. Then you're just like, what the hell is a short form video ad? What is that term? So I'm gonna play a couple.
You're coming home with me.
I'll play the other. So both of these are our clients, and basically a short form video ad is you're taking a sound or a trend that is kind of culturally understood, almost sort of like a meme, and then you're plugging your brand into it. So what happens is that these are relatively low production, they're easier to make, and I think it's a great format to kind of add in. So then you're just like, hey, what type of ads should I do? If you're starting out, you should do statics. They're the easiest to iterate on and to really find like what your customers resonate with. As you have more bandwidth, do short form video, and as you have more bandwidth, do long form. I'm not saying you shouldn't do long form when you start out, but if you have no idea what your customers like, don't spend a month making one long form video ad when you could have just made like 20 statics and test out what works, right? Then you're like, well, how do I find a good creative angle? So you have proven angles, like the stuff that's just like proven, everybody uses them. And then you want to go and find out what works in your niche. I would literally just go on YouTube and TikTok and search your niche and look at what videos get views there, and then just like take that format and copy it. It's pretty straightforward. And the last thing is trending. So certain formats come and go for like a 2 to 4 month period. So find out what's trending, ride that wave. Here, if you guys scan the QR, there's a free database of 40 plus creative angles with examples that I have. So the QR will be there at the end, and it'll also be there in my booth. So you don't have to all pull out your phones right now to do it. So step 3 is to write a script. So scripting is actually pretty easy. If you've done the research, you're literally just adding the meat to the bone. It's pretty straightforward. The second thing is you want to use lingo. So you want to talk like how your customers actually talk. And the third thing is, did you guys know that Warren Buffett writes his shareholder letters in grade 4 English? So none of us, like if he can explain billion-dollar insurance companies in grade 4 English, we do not need to complicate things. Grade 6 to 9 is generally good. You can use the Hemingway app to check it. And then so if you look at the ad that we made, you can see that it's in roughly a grade 6 reading level. And the words that you guys and we use is like D2C space, Ecom, 7.5 figures, brand, blah, blah, blah. So like when you saw the ad, you're like, oh, that spoke to me. But it's easy for me to make that ad because I'm in this space as well. But what do I know about hair care or hair loss or like, I don't know, diapers? Like you got to go and do your research and use the same vocabulary that they use. And then the bonus when you script is you always want to make at least 3 to 5 iterations. Can I get a show of hands, like who here like actually makes ads? Like whether it's you or like your brand or your agency, who here like actually makes ads? I see like, okay, like a third of the room, like maybe half. Who here makes at least like 3 to 5 iterations every time they make ads? Oof, a lot less. Okay, so this is the world if your brand just made 3 to 5 iterations. This meme is usually reserved for like if dads went to therapy, but I think it applies for this as well. So it's literally only like 10 to 15% more therapy, more effort to make it, but like there's the amount of times where I launch 5 variations, one of them does well, the other 4 flop, and you're just like, what would have happened if I didn't make that extra one? Like the ad would have never worked. So I think it's just really, really important to test iterations, especially hooks, because that dictates if people are going to stay and watch your stuff. Next up is shooting. So you need to get a UGC actor. If you don't have budget, just do it yourself. I've done a ton of ads myself in the beginning, and I still do sometimes. You got to write them a brief with exactly what they need to do, and then you also need to QA all the footage. So you might be asking, how do I find a good UGC actor? You have to research on like Fiverr, Twitter. Twitter is really good. Fiverr and Upwork work pretty well. You have to be exactly clear about what you want from them. So you can't just be like, hey, I want a UGC ad. Like, what does that mean? Like, tell them exactly what you need. And then I would say my biggest tip is you want to meet with them. You want to treat them like a freelancer, and you want to build that relationship. So go and have a one-on-one meeting and actually tell your story, learn about theirs, so that there's this accountability and human interaction. Otherwise, you're just a number behind the screen. They're going to be late with their deliverables, and they won't care about you. So if you're wondering, we also have a guide about how to do this. So again, you can scan the QR code. Tell you exactly how to find them, how to vet for them, our exact like templates on what scripts we send to them for DM follow-ups, what our standard scope of work and rates are that we pay them, and then also templates for contracts. Step 5 is you edit. So editing is pretty straightforward. I think about 2 main things. Number 1, you want to blend in. So if you look at what's working organically, you want to copy it. So I see a lot of brands would be like, hey, my brand color is like teal, so I'm gonna make every caption teal. I think like that's kind of stupid because like right away you're like, I'm an ad, like skip me. That's what you're screaming. So you want to blend in what looks organic, and that's like usually a really good idea. The second thing you want to do is you want to fight for attention. So you're not really thinking about your competitors. You're really thinking about like someone is one scroll away from a cute cat video, right? Like that's what you're fighting for. So it's really, really difficult. So you got to think about like, is this actually interesting to watch? And I'll have a couple prompts that lets us do that. So if you look at Ecom North, the organic kind of hook, that's what it looks like. It doesn't look like an ad at all. And then if you look at the B-rolls that we put throughout the ad, it's very, very engaging, and you're telling the story visually via editing. My rule of thumb is if you watch it, like just go and watch your ad. If at any point you feel bored, it's because it's boring. So you want to do something about it with the editing. Then the second thing is like you want to do it again, and you want to do it on mute because a lot of people watch on mute. So like visually, can I understand the story? Can I kind of get what's going on from there? The last step is analysis. So it's not just enough to launch. You got to actually look at the numbers. But I would say like contrary to, I guess, maybe popular statements, is like CAC and ROAS is the only thing that matters. Your software metrics will tell you other things, but in terms of do I turn the budget up or down, this is the only number that actually matters, right? Then you want to look at things like hook rate and hold rate. I think like a million people have talked about it, so I won't go too in depth, but with hook rate, if it's weak, you want to test copy, visuals, and sounds in your hook. If your hold rate is weak, meaning like 3 to 15 seconds, people are just leaving, you want to tighten up the script, you want to test the order of the clips, and you want to maybe just see what's boring from 3 to 15 seconds. Click-through rate, pretty straightforward. If you don't have a high click-through rate, maybe you don't have a good enough offer, it doesn't feel like there's urgency or scarcity, or social proof, like people just don't trust you. And then if you have a weak conversion rate, you got to make sure you're capturing the right attention. So for example, like if the ad for Ecom North didn't call out D2C founders, people might think it's like a more generic conference. So a lot of people click and then nobody converts, and then it ends up being weird. So these are the metrics for the Ecom North ad. This is the #1 spending ad in the account. It had a hook rate of 40%, which is like excellent. Hold rate of 21% is actually bonkers. I almost never see that. It's insane. Click-through rate of 1% is solid, and then conversion rate of 15% is also nuts, but that's because the tickets were free, so like that, you know, that kind of skews it up really high. So then it comes to like, okay, what do I do when my ad does well? So now that you've like done this whole cycle, like you guys might feel this decision paralysis of like, okay, what happens when an ad does well? So a first thing is you should just make iterations. Like if it does well, like try to make it 5 to 10% better. It's a no-brainer. The second thing is like you think of a new ad concepts, but you pair it with the same customer profile. So for Ecom North, say the ad did well, like I would say, hey, I still want to make ads for D2C founders, but let me just find a new angle to tell the story. The third thing you can do is you can take a new ad concept, you would take the same creative angle and you would try it for a different customer profile, right? So hypothetically, in this case, I'm like, hey, like maybe I should make one dedicated for like Amazon FBA sellers. Let's make an ad just for that, but with the same angle. I think that generally speaking, small brands do not iterate enough on their winners. That's kind of something I observe. And then big brands also just don't test new customer profiles enough. So these are kind of two things I observe. And then the last thing here is just like, you know, what most people don't talk about, like what do you do when your ad fails? I think this is a real issue where like you like, oh, an ad performs bad. Oh, then you think everything about the ad is bad. The script is shit, the hook is shit, like, you know, B-rolls are bad. Like, so then you just go down this rabbit hole and you're like, oh, this is a terrible concept. Let's just not do this again, right? I don't think that's generally speaking productive. You want to learn from this experience. So the first thing you can say is like, say if the Ecom North ad did really bad, I would say like, hey, I was really confident that this was the right customer, and I'm actually really confident that it was the right creative angle. Like I think I picked the right creative angle, but maybe my execution was just really bad. So then what I would do is I would just like either reshoot it or try to make iterations to make it better, right? So like just because an ad did bad, like you need a critical thinking to think like, well, like what do I think about it? Like, do I think it could have gone well and it just needed better execution, right? So that would be the first case. Second case is you're like, I'm super confident about the customer profile, but maybe it was the wrong storytelling format, right? Maybe the creative angle is shit. So then we would make a new ad concept with the same customer profile, but with a different creative angle. You wouldn't tell the same story again. You would try to tell a different story in a different format, but you would keep the same customer, right? Third thing is you literally have no clue, which is a lot of times what happens. I would suggest just doing a bit more research and just, you know, making sure you're even aiming in the right direction. So in this case, like if Ecom North ad did well, I would just make iterations, focus on click-through rate, and I'll also make new ad concepts with the same customer profile, different creative angle. If the Ecom North ad didn't do well, I was super confident about the customer profile. I was also super confident that we executed really well on the creative angle. So what I would have done is change it to a different creative angle. I would have done like a problem agitation solution or something else about it. Yeah, but that's pretty much it. I got 5 minutes left. I think, we have like Q&A now, but I also do like a free creative audit at the booth number 7. It's like kind of down the hallway where the food is. We'll like gently roast your ads if you want us to and tell you what to improve on. And then there's also a little cute thing I'm doing where like you can come and I'll do like a tell your story in 60 seconds. I'll be like, hey, I'm here with, what do you do? Why'd you do it? Like I'll post that on my socials, on Ecom North's social. So if you're a founder, you're doing something cool, you want to tell your story, come through. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. All right, we got 5 minutes on the dot. Questions? Oh, I'm like kind of blind, so I can't see.
When it comes to actually targeting your customers on Meta, are you finding to do broad Advantage Plus still, or are you looking at targeting specific customer profiles within Meta? Because I've heard and experienced different things that it used to be that hyper-targeting was better, and now it's better to let the algorithm figure it out for you.
Yeah, the algorithm will definitely figure it out for you. So what Meta does is like, say you have 60 seconds in your ads, the people who actually watch till the end, the people who actually click into it, those are the people it's going to serve to. So trust in the algorithm god. Go broad all the way. Do not do interest. Do not do any demo stuff. Unless you're like hyper niche, like I've seen anime brands target like animes on Facebook and like that works, but usually they're not as scalable. I would just recommend broad all the way. Yeah. Do you want to just speak? Is it easier? Yeah.
Yeah, so when it comes to the static and the short format, how do you touch up on all the same points that you touch in a more long format? Right? Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. So the question is, how do you touch on all the points in a static short form ad as a long form? Because you only have like 0 seconds for static and you have like 10 seconds. So the answer is you don't. Like you just can't afford to touch on everything. So you pick like 1 to 3 things you want to touch on. So you just do less. But then the beauty is that you get to like test and iterate super fast and at a really like affordable way, right? So you can just make 10 statics, test 10 different headlines, see what resonates. So you just can't afford to, but it is what it is. Yeah. Yeah.
For a video reel, what's the maximum length that you don't want to exceed?
I have a good quote. There's no such thing as a video that's too long, only too boring. You guys we all spend like hours binging Netflix shows and movies. So there's no such thing as too long. Like just tell your story. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, what you built is quite special, so congrats. From an operational standpoint, relevant for both brands and agencies as well, how do you scale the unique set of talents in your business, which is a mix of creative, but also an understanding of paid media and data analysis? I found that to be challenging over the years. So, any insight there?
So your question is like, how do I like hire better people, more better people, I guess?
Well, yeah, as you're scaling your workforce to pump out more quality work, finding talent that can combine those skill sets,
yeah,
I assume must be difficult.
That's a great question. I think like a lot of work needs to be done on like the media buying side. Like so me and another partner, his name is Colin, we are like kind of the head of media buying. So we'll try to like give context and like make sure the creative team understands the numbers. And then we also come from, like, I make ads myself, so I get both sides of it, so I'm kind of the bridge. I think you need to be the bridge. And then the other thing we're hiring is, like, you always have to be hiring. Good talent is so hard to come by. So, yeah, I think you kind of got to get lucky, but the luck is created through, like, just trying nonstop and not, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So bridging the gap between both.
Yeah, you definitely have to bridge the gap. Like, motion is cool. Like, I wouldn't teach my creative team how to use Ads Manager, so I pay like $1 million a month for motion. So like, yeah. We still have a minute left. Anybody? Just like shout it, honestly. Just shout it. Yeah. yeah, that's a great question. I've been asked that once recently. So there's probably like two answers I would give. One is I would just like pull up like our case studies and track record and show them our work. Like the work speaks for itself. If you think our ads is good, then like you want this, then you should hire us, right? We're not like super down bad, like, oh my God, please hire us. Like if you like the ads, like come work with us. The second thing is I think like I take a pretty contrarian approach to stuff in the sense that like our agency name is really weird, No Growth. Like come to our booth, I'll tell you why. But I try my best to make sure that like people in my agency are actually happy and not burnt out. Like as a service business, it's really about your people. So I think it's really typical for agencies to like churn through people. Like we have a retention rate of 100% for our team. Nobody has ever quit. Our active client retention is 14 and a half months. We've only been around for 19 months. So like we do things differently where we care about sustainability and quality. And I think that's like really important for us. So yeah. Cool, that's time, really. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.